Okay, let me ask you a question about your kids. If your kid has a good friend that goes through something difficult, painful, serious, would your kid know how to show up for them? Would your kid have the social skills that they need to be a good person, to stand by that friend, to be there for them? Would they know what to say? And maybe more importantly, would they know what not to say? The critical question we're looking through this week is all under this concept of belonging, relationships. It's impossible to build a meaningful life, which includes success, of course. As parents, we want our kids to be successful, but it's impossible to build a meaningful life without your kid having healthy relationships, community, connection, belonging. Fancy word would be relatedness. And so the question we're going to get into this week that we think every single kid needs to be able to have their own answers for is this: how do you care for your friends? And no, it's not just like checking in on your friend or sending a funny meme. What we're talking about actually is empathetic listening, something that most kids, and let's be honest, most adults haven't been taught to do well. That's not something you learn in school. It's not innate either. Kids don't automatically know how to care for others. Some might have more sensitivity, some might be more drawn to it. Nevertheless, it's a skill to develop. Empathy and emotional support aren't instincts, they're learned behaviors. And in fact, according to developmental psychology, empathy begins early through parents emotionally mirroring their kids throughout childhood. But unless it's nurtured, it doesn't automatically grow into this broader set that we call emotional intelligence. And one of the biggest parts of emotional intelligence is listening with empathy. Most kids today are growing up in a hyper-distracted, fast response world. They spend more time reacting to notifications than listening to people. You sit around with a group of friends who are teenagers, and they've got their phones out, their devices out, and the notifications are on. The result, they often don't know how to stay present when someone else is talking. I've sat with and driven cars with loads of teenagers, and sometimes I just cringe when I hear a kid who's sharing something that has the touch of seriousness, has a touch of maybe something that they're sharing that's hard or difficult or painful to them or disappointing to them. And I look around, I'm like, this is the moment. The ball is on the tee. Like, I want to respond, but I'm not the friend. I'm just listening. And then there's a swing and a miss. There's a friend that maybe dismisses that person. There's 2 or 3 other kids that don't even listen or notice what they're sharing. Or maybe they default to something like advice or distraction. Just don't think about it. Or maybe even shutting down. And the message that a kid receives who wants to share, needs to share something important, is looking for support. The message is, don't share that sort of thing here with that friend. When our kids don't learn how to be empathetic and really listen with empathy, their friendships too often stay surface level, superficial. They don't know how to resolve conflict. They avoid hard conversations, or maybe they shut people out. They feel helpless when someone's hurting or when they're hurting. And so they kind of shrink and disappear. And this affects more than just friendships. Down the road, it impacts how they lead, how they parent, how they show up in marriage, and how trustworthy they become in teams. This isn't just about having them have good social skills and good manners. It's a critical ingredient to building healthy friendships so that they have everything they need to become people who flourish in life. So empathetic listening is pretty simple, but it's not easy. What it means is giving your full attention without a phone out, without notifications on, full kind of just settled in. It looks like and sounds like redirecting what you hear. So saying things like, it sounds like you're feeling overwhelmed, or nonverbal cues like, It, of course, means resisting the urge to fix or give advice, unless, of course, you're asked. And it typically involves affirming and validating someone else's feelings, saying things like, that makes sense. What did you do next? Out of curiosity. And when someone demonstrates and practices empathetic listening, someone else feels heard. And then something shifts, their guard drops, they feel safe, seen, supported, psychologically safe. And that's the kind of presence everybody needs and appreciates. It's the kind of presence that builds relationship and helps establish a sense of trust. So how do we parents teach empathetic listening? It always goes back to modeling it. Let your kids see you do it, both with them, but also with other people, with your spouse, with your friends, with your neighbors, with other family members, without interrupting, without fixing, without giving advice. Let them see you practice empathetic listening. If you don't know it yet, learn it, practice it, tell them you're working on it. So modeling is one. Second is naming it when you see it. When your kid shows glimpses of empathy with their friends or with a sibling, say it like, hey, I noticed you really paid attention when your friend was talking. I think that's a really big deal. And then finally, ask them this question. How do you, when you have friends who go through hard things, what do you do? What's the best way? Like, what's the worst? What's the opposite? What's like really bad examples of empathetic listening? Allow them to connect the dots and think for it on their own. Obviously, we all want our kids to be successful. More than that, we want them to be happy. Beyond that, we want them to build meaningful, healthy lives, which includes strong friendships, emotional health, and rich relationships. But those things don't come from being charming or being funny. Those come from being present, standing by people when things are hard. So this week, ask your kid this: how do you care for your friends? What do your friends need when they're going through something hard from you? And then help them practice empathetic listening, a life skill that can help not just improve their friendships, but strengthen their character. It matters for them to have these social skills. And you have the key chance, critical opportunity to teach them these things. We'll be back next week with another episode of the YouSchool podcast.